Welcome to this edition of the Locker Room Chat, brought to you by the Shanneman Sports Museum of Tacoma-Pierce County and Rainier Asphalt and Concrete, the #1 asphalt and concrete repair contractor in the Tacoma and Seattle area. For quality workmanship and top-notch customer service, contact Rainier Asphalt and Concrete at www.rainierasphalt.com. Let them know you heard about them on the Locker Room Chat. Today from the vault, we're pleased to share with you an interview conducted by Bob Robertson in 2010 with Cliff Schiesz, a two-sport letterman in baseball and basketball at Bellarmine Prep. Playing mainly at second base, Cliff competed for K Street in the City League, Madigan, Edgewood, Olde Pilsner, and Portland Avenue in the Valley League. He also was fortunate to have had the opportunity to tour with the House of David barnstorming club for several seasons.
Well, Cliff Schiesz, welcome. I guess the best way to start is to find out when and where were you born?
I was born in Tacoma in January of 1924.
And you've been here ever since?
Well, yes, it's been my hometown ever since birth, except, war years I went overseas. But,
war years in baseball, I guess, took you away for part of that time.
Oh yes, I traveled a little bit with the baseball.
But before we get to your baseball career, although I guess it probably had started by the time you were in high school, where did you go to high school?
I went to Bellarmine High School here in Tacoma.
Okay, did you go on to college after that?
No, when I first came home from the service, I enrolled it was CPS then for a while, but I didn't stay long, so I really can't claim a college education.
What sports did you participate in high school at Bellarmine?
Well, I participated in baseball, basketball, and football. The student body was only 100 and some people, and if you turned out for a sport, you made the team.
If you didn't turn out, you were an outcast, right? Was baseball your best game right from the start?
It's hard to say. I was a good basketball player for my era, but baseball was my strong point.
Do you recall who your coaches were in the various sports?
Well, in football, I had Andy Hogue and Andy Slatt. Baseball, a priest named Father Eckstein. Father Eckstein was my baseball coach. I can't recall any of the others.
All right, did you win any honors as you were playing?
Well, yes, I was unanimous choice 2 years in a row for basketball in the city high schools.
Now, you were inducted into the Bellarmine Athletic Hall of Fame, 2001?
I don't recall. It sounds good, though. Yeah.
But you were into the Hall of Fame there.
Yeah.
Was that for participating in all the different sports?
No, I think it was mostly for baseball that I did that.
What position or positions did you play in baseball?
Second base was my played the most years at second base. I lost my arm to play shortstop, so they moved me over to second base.
So you could turn the double play pretty well. Yeah. It was a fun game. Where did you play the games? On the school grounds, or did you play somewhere else?
Well, in high school, we played in all the school grounds. Bellarmine and Stadium was the worst field then. It was a cinder bottom, but we played in the high schools.
So you had the field right up there at the school?
Yeah.
And was Bellarmine always in that same location?
Yes, it was. I think I haven't been up there for a lot of years. I think they also owned the property behind, and I think they developed that since I left there.
Okay. 1947. By that time, back from the service at that time. When did you go in the service?
In 42. Right after 42. Right after I got out of high school, they drafted me into the service.
Where did you go? What parts of the world did you see, or the country?
Well, I took my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then went over to England, and then from England to France, then up to Germany. I made that tour.
Get a chance to play any baseball, or were you too busy fighting a war?
Well, we did get to play some softball, and in fact, I played softball in Hyde Park in London many times. We had a little league going there. And we had it was a fun thing.
Was that pretty much an American servicemen's league, or did some of the English
Well,
athletes play?
it was at most servicemen's league. I don't know that London fielded any teams or not. I can't recall if they ever did.
So you came out of the service when?
February of 46.
46. And it wasn't very long before you were back on a baseball field again.
No, it wasn't long, really. I can't. Oh, I think Hal Schimling come by and got me to play for Edgewood, I think it was, in that era.
Neighborhood community baseball teams were very big in those days, weren't they?
Oh, they were, yes. I can recall City League teams when I was a boy. They were darn good teams. Good teams. It would have matched any of the organized baseball teams, I think.
And great competition, the fierce competition between neighborhoods and small towns.
Yeah, we used to make our own games, travel from one neighborhood, one sandlot to the next.
The old City League used to draw people, large crowds.
Pass the hat in the old Lincoln Bowl. Yeah, they passed the hat.
Pass the hat, and I know fans now wouldn't understand what that was, but that's how you paid for uniforms and umpires and baseballs.
There was a lot of entertainment there. Remember Clarence Stave? He was the umpire.
Umpires became famous in those days, didn't they?
Oh boy, yeah.
Clarence in those days, he'd work those games alone often, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah.
But 1947, you were called by the Tacoma Tigers, the town team, then in the Western International League. How did that come about?
Well, I didn't make the team. Glenn Stetter he had led the league in hitting the year before, so I would have made second base except for Glenn Stetter coming through there.
A tough one to move out of the way. Yeah. What happened to Glenn Stetter after that? Did he ever play Major League Baseball?
No, he didn't. I think he played for Tacoma I think his last team.
So did you advance then from the tryout with the Western International League team?
Well, I joined Wenatchee for a while. I played with Wenatchee, and I played second base. It was a very young team, mostly all California young kids. I can't think of the managers. Not Hal Ryan. I think was Hal Ryan strike a bill.
Hal Ryan was a manager in the league, and his son.
Well,
he
was our manager then for Wenatchee.
Played at Recreation Park, the old ballpark there.
Yeah, oh yeah. But anyway, then I came home and wasn't home long, and Hal Schimling got me signed up with the House of David, and I traveled with them for a season and a half, maybe.
That must have been enough time to be a life-changing experience, a year and a half with the House of David.
It was quite an experience indeed, yeah. We played a lot of baseball.
But now wait, before you played baseball, didn't you have to grow a beard?
Well, I tried growing a beard, but I was so young and fair-skinned that it never showed.
But you had a whisker or two, so you qualified.
And we weren't forced to let our hair grow. The true House of David sect, they let their hair grow too, but we could get a haircut.
Interesting that they would be headquartered in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and yet their baseball team barnstormed all over the country.
Yes, it is. I can't give you the true history of the House of David, but it was a religious sect. It was a community type thing where you might be the mayor and I might be the garbage collector or something. It was all a community deal. And they all ate together as one. It was quite an experience.
Where did the players come from for the House of David team? From all over?
We traveled all over. Anything west of the Mississippi. We never went east of the Mississippi. It was all out here. Mostly out here in the Northwest. They drew better out here.
Would you pick up an additional player as you went through a community if he showed interest in
playing?
They
picked me up that way. But Hal Schimling had played with them before, and he was still in contact with them. And they knew they needed a second baseman, so I went with him.
And as I recall, it was a pretty good baseball team.
Oh, I thought so, yeah. A lot of talent there, yeah.
They'd always play the best teams in different communities, different towns and cities.
people, the Harlem Globetrotters baseball team used to follow us around when we'd get to communities that may not field a ball team. We'd play them exhibition.
You had a fellow with a great first baseman with the big floppy first baseman. Was Tucker? Was that his name? Do you recall?
Tucker was I remember him. Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. Did any of those players go on to play Major League Baseball that you know of?
From who I played with?
From the House of David, yes.
Well, no, I really don't think so. I can't remember any of them going on to Major League Baseball or organized baseball.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said a year and a half with the House of David, so obviously you didn't stay there long.
I joined them during the season and played that season out, and then I played part of the next season and come home.
And when you came home, what happened with your baseball career?
Well, Hal Schimling grabbed me right away again, and I had all these local teams, Pilsner Beer, and Madigan General Hospital, and the K Street Merchants, that type of league.
Do you recall how many different teams you played on and how many different leagues over the years?
Well, it's hard to name them all. The Valley League and the Sunset League, and we had a city league here with just the neighborhood, Sunset Theater and Madigan and that type of thing.
One that I've heard considerable of down through the years in baseball is the old K Street team.
Yeah, well,
a lot of people say that may have been the best of the whole bunch.
We had a very good team, and Schimling was a good manager. He run it like a ball team. You know, it wasn't just a thing to do in the evening. He run it like a ball team, and it was fun playing for him.
Teams sponsored by commercial enterprises in those days?
Oh, gosh. I can't think of the drug now. Myers Drug on K Street, they were a big sponsor. And I can't remember hardly any of the others.
You played with some great local players, many of whom went on to play professional baseball. Fellas like Pete Sabutis and Frank Maroney and Larry Rask and Dave Benetti, just to name a few.
And Gordy Brunswick, he was on a team one time I played with, and he went on to the Major Coast League, I think he played, for Seattle and that, yeah.
Gordy was an outstanding player. Vic Martino, Earl Burnell, Fred Rickert.
Earl was a fine ball player. Still playing, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's playing with the old timers in the softball deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fred Rickert.
Fred he was a fireball. Yeah.
And of course, Hal Schimling and Hank Semmer.
Mm-hmm.
These fellows were sort of legendary, all of them in baseball in Tacoma-Pierce County.
Times were different then, you know. There wasn't all this other activities and TV and all that. It was a close unit.
There was no draft in Major League Baseball in those days. You didn't have an opportunity for a Major League team to select you and then
Yes, I was recruited by the St. Louis Browns, if you remember.
I remember the Browns.
Yeah, and I did. The service took me away from that anyway. I didn't go, but they were recruiting me. I could have went to their farm team or something. Oh, another story that I just remembered just now. When I was playing in the City League for, I can't remember what team, Pilsner I think it was, Ed Honeywell, remember Ed?
Ed Honeywell, yes.
Well, he had a fellow come up somewhere, and he was going to sign me with the Cleveland team on the farm team, and I was supposed to go to California to play, Stockton or one of those teams, but I didn't do that either. I stayed home and became a firefighter.
Which is a good profession.
Well, it was a good choice, I'll tell you, in the long run.
Do you recall talking to the professional teams, and we note the amounts of money that players are paid these days? Do you recall what the pay was to go into the minor leagues in those days?
I think with Wenatchee, I was making $210 a month. I think it was something like that, which was hardly enough to live on.
That was for the months that you were playing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the temptation was not always as great. It was only the love of the game that kept you playing.
Oh, yeah. yeah, it was. That was it.
Now your games, some of them or a lot of them must have been played at Old Tiger Park on 38.
Yes, we did. Yeah, and even the old athletic park years ago played in there too. Yeah. I didn't play at any of these. There wasn't any modern parks around here at that time.
Of course, modern parks hadn't been designed yet in those days.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're lucky to have a park to play in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is there anything else we missed in your involvement in baseball?
Gosh, no, you covered more than I realized.
We talked as we were going along about passing the hat. What exactly did that amount to? What was that?
Well, I don't know where the money went then. I was quite young when they did that. I was, very young, in fact, but I do remember them doing it in the Lincoln Bowl. And times were tough then, too, as I recall. But they got a hatful.
Mm-hmm. Dimes and quarters and nickels.
Yeah. And people walked all around just to see the ball. That was, it drew quite a few people.
Another thing about the expense of playing the game, of course, uniforms. Somebody had to buy the uniforms. Mm-hmm. Did the players ever have to chip in for their own?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I know we got hand-me-down uniforms, and they were a lot bigger than I should have had. They hung on me like...
Any games particularly stand out in your mind? I mean, great performances you had, ones that you kind of stored away in the memory banks?
Gosh, no. I have a lot of fond memories, but nothing where, in the spectacular that you'd want to hear about.
You didn't throw baseballs to the fans in the stands
No,
in those days?
No. No.
In fact, didn't the fans get free tickets or something for returning foul balls?
Oh yes, and I don't know if you grew up. There was a ball chaser and his name was Bully Peterson. He was aptly named.
He'd get the baseballs back.
Yeah, he'd get the balls back. Yeah.
Equipment, gloves today, the lighter bats.
Well, one story is. We didn't have very good bats, and Schimling had contacts with. We'd get some of the bats that the WI League was discarding, and they were so much better wood and everything in them than what we were used to playing with.
You get a little crack in the handle, you just tape it up and go on.
We had baseballs so much tape on them, they were like a shot put.
You use those for practice, would you?
Yeah.
You have batting practice and infield before every game.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing I remember that I did. I was still in grade school when the City League was formed in Lincoln. I'd get there real early and I'd go out in the field when they were having batting practice in field. That was one of my fun things. Get
with the then older guys, huh?
Yeah. And I just loved to field ground balls and that. And so baseball was my game. I practiced a lot at it, and I liked it.
Since most of the fellows who played obviously had jobs, this was not professional baseball. How did you get them together and when to practice, or did you just show up for games when they were scheduled?
I can't speak for all of them, but a lot, like Camerano's had a team. Well, a lot of the players worked at Camerano's, and the Olympic Dairy is another one, that City League team. And anyway, getting a job at that time was important, so that's how they recruited them.
Is that where semi-pro baseball came from? Where they got jobs, perhaps a little pay for the game, but mostly it was a job?
Yeah. That most of it was. There was at one time that I could have went up to Mount Vernon or somewhere and worked for Coca-Cola to play baseball. But I was on the list to become a firefighter, and I stayed home.
Mm-hmm. Did the fire department ever have its own team?
No. With softball, but not a baseball team.
So when did you quit the game?
Gee whiz. Well, it was after I was on the fire department. It got to be a chore to get off to play the different games. I'd have to have somebody come in to work for me while I was gone, and then I'd have to pay them back that time. So I went on the fire department in 1950. I don't think I played any more after 1953 or 52. It got too much of a chore to try to get the game.
Hard to walk away from the game?
Oh yes, you bet. I thought I wish I could play it now even.
Don't take me out to the ball game as a
Yeah,
song
oh
that
gosh,
brings
yeah.
memories, huh?
Yeah, a lot of fond memories.
Well, I guess that takes care of the questions, Cliff. It's been a great baseball career for you, and congratulations.
It's been fun, and at this stage of the game, it's fun to reminisce about different things that happened along the way.
Cliff Schiesz, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Bob.
That concludes today's presentation on behalf of Rainier Asphalt and Concrete and the Shannon Sports Museum of Tacoma-Pierce County. I'm Steve Thomas. We thank you for joining us on another edition of the Locker Room Chat.